Welcome, everybody, to The Subject is Moot, where everything we discuss is debatable. I am Dom, and across from me is...
Mike.
And a special thanks to Vinny and Quiz, the producers of the podcast. Don't forget our email address, thesubjectismoot@yahoo.com. Write in your opinion, comments, anything you want to discuss, and we'll bring it up in future shows. Also, make sure you stay to the end of the podcast where you hear the artist of our podcast, as well as the answers to the trivia questions we're going to ask in a little while. Mike, how are you today?
Very good.
Very good?
Yes.
I don't know if anybody heard you. You want to say that again?
Very good.
All right. Well, that's a good way to start. I'm looking
And
forward to
yourself,
this.
Dominic?
I am doing awesome.
Great.
Looking forward to this. This is a subject we wanted to talk about for a while, and we're finally getting to it.
Yep.
But first, I want to bring up your moot point, where Joe from Newburgh, New York, wrote in.
Joey
wrote in. He's liking what he's hearing, which is a good thing. I appreciate your feedback, Joe, and
Thanks, Joe.
keep listening, keep writing in. We'd love to hear more from you. He liked what he heard, especially on the Van Halen one, where we discussed the lineup changes over the years that they've underwent. And he also wanted to know if we were going to be talking about other bands that have gone through personal changes, like Kiss, Queensryche. And you know what? That's actually a very good topic. Mike and I discussed it. It's on our list. And we definitely will talk about something like that because a lot of bands, through the history of their existence, have gone through some personal changes, some good, some bad. As fans, do you boycott them? Do you support them either way? And it's interesting to see, I guess it depends on who the member of the band is that left, and how important of a role did they play in the band. So, we want to break that down, but it's something that we need to really take apart, put it all together for you. But that is a very interesting topic that I look forward to covering in the future. So we definitely will, and it is definitely on our list. But you know what, though, since now you're asking for it, we'll move it to the front burner.
We'll send it to you, Joe. Don't worry.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Keep writing in, keep listening. We appreciate it. Anybody else out there, don't hesitate. We look forward to hearing from you. So let's get right into the trivia questions that we have. And our podcast topic today is vocalists. Now, not necessarily the greatest vocalists, I guess, in the history of music, but it's who we like listening to, and who our favorites are. So let's break it down. We have 4 questions here, and we'll give you the answers at the end of the show. Number 1 is Stevie Nicks sang backup vocals for what Jon Stewart song? What is Frances Ethel Gumm's stage name?
Ooh.
All right, number 3 is Elle King is the daughter of what actor?
Elle or Ellie?
Elle.
You sure?
Elle King. I know a lot of people call her Ellie, but it's Elle King.
All right.
Patti Smith co-wrote Because the Night with who?
Who could it be?
Yep, and well, stay tuned, and you know what? You will find out. Now, when you hear vocalists, you hear the history of vocalists, you have to start from the beginning. Now, I guess we could only go back so far. Unfortunately, we will cover the ones, I guess, from the earlier days, but, I guess that was our exposure to these vocalists, I think, from when our grandparents and our parents listened to the music. And it's unfortunate because a lot of the music that we listened to, the older vocalists, was on AM radio. FM radio wasn't, I guess my grandparents used to listen to a lot of AM radio. Mike, what do you think? We have to break it down, go back from the beginning of time, and cover females first, right? Ladies first?
You got to have ladies first, and you got to start with the classics. I mean, that's really where everybody should really start. Because everybody should, if you're a music fan, music fanatic, you really should have an open mind and not be ashamed or afraid to revisit the past and the guys who paved, the ladies and the men who paved the way for the great vocalists who continue to show up.
Well, for me, I mean, going back in time, Ella Fitzgerald, okay, the queen of jazz.
Best ever.
Yes.
Best female singer. It's my opinion, but I agree.
Etta James, At Last. And it's funny because, and I always like researching their real names, whether it's actors, actresses, obviously their stage names. Her name is Jamesetta Hawkins. But that's kind of cool how she broke out Etta James from that. She was big, blues, R&B, soul, gospel, jazz. You have Mahalia Jackson, Christian gospel. She had, I think, almost 30 albums. That's a lot of albums. Great voice, great control in her voice. Patsy Cline. Now, these are mine. Mike will break down his in a little bit, but over time, these are these are who I enjoyed listening to.
Can't argue with these classics, though.
Yeah, these are, yeah, Patsy Cline, Crazy, I Fall to Pieces. She was country, pop, swing, gospel, rockabilly. Julie Andrews, who personally, I'm one of my personal favorites, in my top 10 category. Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, tremendous movie. I love her voice. Judy Garland, another great vocal. Aretha Franklin, Queen of Soul. I mean, not much you can say about her. I mean, it's just, she's tremendous. Actually, I shouldn't say there's not much you can say, but there's a lot you can say. But, Aretha Franklin is Aretha Franklin. Yeah, Bette Midler, who, you know what? Bette Midler, I think a lot of people would think is more of an actress than a singer. But she's got tremendous pipes. Barbara Streisand, who can act too. She was in she was in a lot of movies, but one of the funny ones was Meet the Fockers.
That was funny.
I love that. Her and what's his name? Dustin Hoffman.
That was great.
Tremendous.
Yep. Good stuff.
They celebrate mediocrity. Diana Ross, Donna Summer, Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle is I think a sleeper. If you ask me, I don't think a lot of people our age, and forget the younger generation, know Patti LaBelle.
Well, Patti LaBelle is one of those vocalists who I think you have to be into R&B to like, and then she never really crossed over too much into the pop area where some other R&B artists have with even a song or so. Patti LaBelle stuck to her guns. One of the classiest, best female vocalists of all time.
She did some pop.
Here and there, yeah.
She had Stir It Up in Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack.
True.
She sang a great duet with Michael McDonald on My Own.
Yeah,
and
that's a great song, actually.
That's a tremendous song. And Lady Marmalade. Lady Marmalade's an awesome, tremendous
song. Did she originally sing that?
Yeah.
You sure?
I believe she was... if anybody did it before her, I don't know, but...
Interesting.
Annie Lennox, Patti Smith, Stevie Nicks, and... Stevie Nicks. I mean, she had a tremendous solo career. Fleetwood Mac, tremendous duets with Don Henley, Tom Petty. I can't say enough about Stevie Nicks, and I'll give you my top later on. Janis Joplin, Pat Benatar. Now, when you get into Stevie Nicks and Janis Joplin, Pat Benatar, this is where I really where I gear my opinion on vocalists. It's not so much the range they could hit, the notes they could hit, how long they could hit them. It's for me, it's the character in their voice, the uniqueness in their voice. And Stevie Nicks, Janis Joplin, Pat Benatar, Debbie Harry, Joan Jett, Tina Turner, Lita Ford, great duet with Ozzy Osbourne.
Yep.
All right. These are the ones that, this is what I like in the song, in music, in female vocalists. I like the growl, the raspiness, the uniqueness. Taylor Dane. I loved her in the 80s. She has a nice tone in her voice, and you know what? Every once in a while, I just go back and throw on an oldie and listen to her. I think a lot of people won't remember her or won't know her, especially the young kids today. They just don't appreciate good 80s, 90s vocalist. Ann Wilson, love Ann Wilson. Heart. Bonnie Tyler fits up in that raspy character voice. Whitney Houston, who I'm going to say it right now, by far is, if I had to pick top 10 vocalists as far as range, note holding, sustain, things like that, belting it out. Nobody comes close to her. Whitney Houston, you can say Mariah Carey. I know, Mike, you and I discussed this, Mariah Carey. You even said it yourself. She can break glass.
Yep.
She has range.
With her voice.
Yes. But Whitney Houston is, to me, the best vocalist I've ever heard for power, range.
It's hard to argue with that, but I'm sure people will, out of preference, but it's hard to argue with that. Whitney was Whitney.
In the Super Bowl, 1991, she sang the Star Spangled Banner.
Some controversy, right?
Yep. She lip-synced it, but you know what, though? You can't not lip-sync the Star Spangled Banner on a stage as big as a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you got to nail it.
You know, and she did. She nailed it. I mean, it was her singing. It was just in the studio. She sang. Let's say she comes to the field that day and she can't sing. What are you going to do?
Yep.
Pull somebody out of the crowd?
You never know. They could find the next Whitney Houston then. Nah, I'm kidding.
But you know what, though? You have to... I don't... Listen, she's Whitney Houston, okay? And as far as lip-syncing, you know what? I don't really mind that at all.
No. Especially it's her. It's her. It's not like Milli Vanilli went up there and sang it.
Exactly.
So
So, and Mariah Carey, another one, tremendous. Melissa Etheridge, love her vocals. Charlotte Church. Charlotte Church was an angel, a voice of an angel. Gwen Stefani, something about Gwen Stefani, I just love the tone of her voice. That's a unique voice. She was great, no doubt, great solo career. Everything about Gwen, absolutely love. Celine Dion, you can't have a list of vocalists and not have Celine Dion on your female vocalist list.
Don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do, Dominic.
Well, to tell you the truth, I used to
I'm
think
joking.
Celine, when I back in the day when I heard vocalists and Celine came out, I'd be like, oh, she's the greatest singer. You know what, though? No, she's not Whitney Houston. She's tremendous, and she's very close, and she's awesome. But no, not Whitney Houston. Christina Aguilera, Alicia Keys, Amy Winehouse, Lady Gaga, which, Lady Gaga in the 2015 Oscars, if I don't know if you saw that tribute, that medley she did of Julie Andrews.
Yes, sir.
All right. Julie Andrews came out and was blown away. I think a lot of people thought Lady Gaga, when she first started her career, was just another pop singer, and I was one of them. I didn't realize the vocal talent that she had. And she's now, I think, she's really coming out of her own and I think impressing a lot of people on her being a step above just a pop star, and she's got vocals.
And she can write a decent tune. She definitely can write a decent tune.
I like Elle King. I like that voice. I like Sia. Sia's really, really good. I think you're going to see a lot of Sia in the future.
You're going to see a Sia?
I'm going to. Yep.
I had to. Sorry.
I know you. I know. I kind of opened that up for you. Morgan James. I know. I actually the first podcast, right? Our pilot. Morgan James was the artist of the podcast that I picked. And if you get a chance, look up Morgan James on YouTube. But she's more of one of the newer underground singers. Easy on the eyes. Very easy on the eyes, and vocally. If you're just going to put the headphones on and, get lost, you can easily do that with Morgan James. But as far as Queen of Current, Adele. I hope she's around forever.
I concur.
Well, Adele is Adele. So, Mike, you have any questions for me?
No. I mean, you filled up. I think you took everybody from me. I mean, I don't even know who to even talk about after that, except for just agreeing with a lot of your list. I mean, I think you should, at this point, you should break down your 10.
I don't have 10. I'm going to give you close to 10, but I'm going to give you a throwback, and that's Ella Fitzgerald, Julie Andrews, Barbra Streisand, Diana Ross, Donna Summer, Patti LaBelle. Oh, I forgot to mention Natalie Cole. How can you have a list of female vocalists and not put... I have Natalie Cole.
How could you?
Well, Natalie Cole. But, so Patti LaBelle, Stevie Nicks, Pat Benatar, Blondie, Tina Turner, Whitney Houston, Gwen Stefani, Lady Gaga, Adele, and Morgan James. But I'm going to give you my top three. Stevie Nicks.
Number one.
Is number one. Stevie Nicks is number one.
Unmistakable voice.
You know what? Her voice to me is because of the character, and when you hear it, it's almost like. And I know we have future shows coming up, guitarists. Okay, I know that may be our next one. It's sound. It's when you hear their voice, you're like, that's her. Okay,
Yep.
Guitarist. When you hear a blues guitar, right, you hear Stevie Ray Vaughan. Do you think it's anybody else? You know it's Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Nicks is singing, you know it's her. I got Stevie Nicks, Whitney Houston, and Adele right there, top three.
Nice. You made it. You broke it down pretty much.
I gave you my overall list of everybody that I enjoyed growing up listening to. I gave you my top probably 12 or 13, and then I gave you my top three. Whitney Houston, Adele, and Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks being one. Now, let's hear yours. Females. We'll do females first, and then we'll go to males.
I mean, the first one on my list, it's going to sound redundant, but Ella Fitzgerald. I've always said to anyone who would listen to me about musicians that I like, singers, whatever, Ella's my favorite. I love her vocals. She's sassy in every way. She can handle almost anything. Swing, ballads, standards, whatever she lends her voice to throughout the years. Whoever she sang with. I'm surprised anybody even wanted to sing next to her, but Alison Krauss is another female singer I absolutely love. When I first heard her on the Brad Paisley song Whiskey Lullaby, it sent shivers up my spine when she came into that song. I just was blown away. I love her voice. I love Alison Krauss and Union Station, her band. The songs are great. It's very melancholic, but just she sings so perfectly over the songs. I hope I can say this right, but Anneke van Giersberg, and she was with a band called The Gathering, I think out of Germany. She started it back in the 90s. It was more metal, slightly doomy. It's just her voice. Anytime she sings, I'm not really into too many female metal singers, but she is definitely up there in just female vocalist category, just in general. It doesn't even need to be metal. Amy Lee from Evanescence, I love. Sade is another singer I love. You can't mistake her voice. Fiona Apple, especially early on in her days. Anita Baker, Toni Braxton. I was always a big fan of their vocals. Kay Pearson from B-52s.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of the B-52s, but whenever she came on, she just had that voice. She just took over the radio, took over the song itself. Even when she sang on songs with REM, it's like I couldn't wait to hear her sing. She just has a big voice. Just you could just see it filling the room. Cyndi Lauper, of course, 80s. Growing up, her voice was on the radio all the time. It's unmistakable. You know, they even made fun of her on The Simpsons one time. She actually was on The Simpsons. It was really funny, too. But those are my female vocalists. Those are my favorites. I can go on and on about female vocals. Obviously, Adele. I don't think it even needs to be said. Adele is one of the newer artists of today, along with Sia. But Adele of the newer artists is my very, very favorite. When I first heard 19, it caught my attention. 21 blew me out of the door. The maturity from, and obviously I know when anybody writes about their life and puts their emotions into song, you can't, it's automatic, it almost seems like. And really, 21 is just one of those records. It's career defining, it's genre defining, it's just phenomenal. And I hope, just like Dom said, I'll reiterate it, I hope Adele's around for a very long time. Music needs Adele. There's no doubt about that.
Skyfall was tremendous for that Bond soundtrack.
Everything she does.
Yeah.
At this point, from 19, I'm not going to lie, I didn't love it, but her voice caught my attention. I knew she would mature as a songwriter, and sure as hell, 21 came out and showed everybody, you know, when you get involved with the right people and you put your mind to it and you have your heart in your songs, anything's achievable. Those are my favorite female vocalists for sure. You know, I don't have a huge list because when it comes to female vocalists, I feel almost, why bother listening to anyone else when, in my opinion, those are the best. They are the best of the best. So that's why my list isn't as big as yours.
Yeah, for some reason, my female vocalist list is a lot longer than the male vocalist, and I know on your side, the males is actually longer than your females.
You're gonna make me sound sexist now.
No, but like looking at my list though is nothing compared to yours as far as my male vocalist. But just over the years, I just kind of feel like it sounds wrong, but I just feel like there's just a lot more female vocalists. I just feel like when you just, maybe because it's range, but even though I don't critique the range. That's not the primary reason why I pick a vocalist. But I just think there's more female vocalists that just stick out in my head.
Well, there's a lot of appeal to female vocalists too. I mean, especially in the pop circle. You know, if you grew up listening to the radio, you were a radio listener. I eventually grew out of that, just like you did. But once you grow out of that and you get in, I also like a ton of genres too. So it's hard for me to just, when it comes to my male list, it's so gigantic because my genres, my range, as you guys used to make fun of me, but I like so many different types of music, and I find the greatest vocalists or the very good vocalists that I enjoy in each genre. So that's why my male list is probably longer.
Well, then let's get to it.
My again, I'll start at the beginning. Sinatra. I know, I grew up listening to him in the house. He's the best. I love listening to Sinatra every Sunday morning, without doubt. When I'm sitting down and eating breakfast, it's got to be Sinatra. I love listening to his music, from his early stuff to his later, his mid-'70s stuff.
You like early Sinatra voice? You like the young Sinatra voice?
I like it all.
I like the older Sinatra. I like the old voice. I like the older voice. It's more mature. It's a little bit deeper. My favorite
Sinatra album is probably Old Blue Eyes Is Back, which was like 1972 possibly, or in the 70s. The songs on there, it just was great listening to him come back, even though I wasn't there when it came out. But my dad listened to that album a lot. There is a lot of melancholy songs on there, but his voice was still great. He proved that he still could sing, especially when working with a greater range of him. I forget who it was. If it was Don Costa on that album or not, or Billy May. But I think it was Don Costa. Nat King Cole, I mean, who sings like Nat King Cole? Nobody.
No.
He's another one up there. And not only that, he was a monster musician. He had his own jazz trio when he didn't sing and just played jazz instrumentals. He was Nat King Cole. Probably my favorite Christmas album of all time is by Nat King Cole also. It's unmistakable. Not just the song, the whole record. Andy Williams, I liked a lot. He had a lot of nice control in his voice, and he had his own distinct voice. He didn't sound like a carbon copy of Sinatra. And then Bing Crosby, who preceded Sinatra technically.
Yep.
I mean, you can't argue with Crosby's voice. People could say what they want about him. He was kind of a triple threat too, because the guy could, not only was he a tremendous singer, he could act, and he danced a little bit in the movies he was in too. So, Bing was a great singer. And you want to move on a little bit to like R&B stuff, or like coming out of like the Motown. Sam Cooke is one of my favorite vocalists of all time, and Otis Redding. And again, my list is not going to go on that long because from that period, Smokey Robinson, because I think when you listen to the best, that's all you need. And then moving on to more modern day stuff. Neil Finn from Crowded House and Split Enz. There's something about his voice. He may not be the best male vocalist of all time or have, the range of some people, but to me there was just something that lended the music that he wrote, everything he did, just hearing him sing. He could sing a lullaby or the alphabet, and I'd be interested in hearing it because.
But that comes down to this distinctability in the voice,
right?
And not necessarily because the word vocalist. People, when you say the word vocalist, give me your best vocalist. People are going to just think right away range.
Right. It's got to be the best of the best.
Right. But you know what though? I look at it a lot past that because, and we'll talk about. You and I spoke about this, but we'll get into that later. You continue, and I don't want to interrupt.
No, I agree, because it comes down to also your favorites, who you like, who catches your ear at a certain time.
Also who fits the band.
Right, of course.
Okay,
of course.
Just for instance, we'll get into it when I talk about like D.C. Cooper later on.
Right.
He tried out for Judas Priest, but there was a better fit for Rob Halford, and D.C. Cooper didn't make the band, right? But he was a front runner, I think.
He was.
Yeah. So he was. I guess it was him and a couple other people or whatever. But they chose other people. Another person other than D.C. Cooper, who's tremendous.
Yeah, Ripper Owens fit the band better.
Exactly.
It was a better fit.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why it comes down to vocals and the fit for the music. So, you like Neil Finn, and he's tremendous. I mean, Crowded House is tremendous, and yeah, he can sing the alphabet. And so you're right. It is. It has a lot to do with. It's the music, the fit in the music.
And the vocals themselves,
Exactly.
right? Which lend to the music, lend to the band, lend to the type of music, genre. I mean, Neil Finn is he's probably my favorite. I love his solo stuff. After him, I love Ted Leonard. He sang for a band called Enchant. He's done some other projects. Now he sings with Spock Spirit, who was a very popular prog band. There's something about his voice, too. I love Ted Leonard. Jeff Tate, you can't argue with him. Jeff Tate is probably, in my opinion, the greatest metal singer of all time at his prime, which was probably from the self-titled record in the early 80s all the way to Promised Land. That stretch of time, his vocals on those records, Jeff Tate, to me, I even think, I know a lot of people will argue with that, but I think he was better than Halford, too, as far as his range goes. To me, Jeff Tate was one of my favorite, probably my favorite heavy metal singer of all time. And James LaBrie may not be my favorite singer, but I think he's worth an honorable mention because I am a gigantic Dream Theater fan.
Are you?
The guy.
I would never have guessed.
The guy he's a professional. And we've seen him live. Some nights he wasn't great, but he is really, really, really a top-notch vocalist.
I think it's very hard to bring it every single night. You are allowed to have a bad day at the office.
Yeah, of course. But we've seen him when he was perfect. Actually, I saw him not too long ago for the recent tour. He was perfect. He's still perfect. And you think when sometimes people get older, they lose their range. He's still great. Steve Hogarth from Marillion, one of my very favorites. Ray Alder from Fates Warning. Jorn Land. Russell Allen from Symphony X. Daniel Gildenlow from Pain of Salvation, Andre Matos from Angra.
You're going underground.
Yeah, of course. D.C. Cooper, as we just spoke about from Royal Hunt, his solo stuff. His solo album was still one of my favorite albums of all time. He also had a band called Silent Force. Bruce from Iron Maiden. Tommy Karevic from Seventh Wonder, and he's also with Camelot now. Roy Khan, who was also with Camelot in a band Conception. Paul Rarick from Tiles is awesome. then backtrack a bit, Steve Walsh and Steve Perry, those 80s bands, Kansas and Journey. Even you want to bring Lou Gramm in there from Foreigner. He's awesome. And if I want to move away from the rock and metal, Tom Chaplin from Keane is one of my favorite vocals of all time. Keane's one of my favorite bands of all time. The guy just has a tremendous range. He sang some songs with Queen, and he sounded perfect with Queen. In my opinion, better than anyone else, but at the time he had his own band. Amos Lee is another singer I love, singer-songwriter, just has a very distinct voice. Obviously Billy Joel. I'm a huge Billy Joel fan. Great vocalist, great songs. And then you want to move out of that style a little bit. I love Groban. I like Michael Bublé. Obviously the greatest tenor of all time. Got to be mentioned is Luciano Pavarotti. But I'm not going to go on. Those are my tops, my favorites. Vocalists that I'll always love and always listen 10? To. Probably not. I mean, if I had to break down, Neil Finn, Ted Leonard, Jeff Tate in his prime, I have to put that in there. Jorn Land, Russell Allen, Tommy Karevic, Tom Chaplin. I mean, I'm not going to go on. That's those are my tops. I mean, I'm not including Sinatra and Nat King Cole. Those are just that's without being said. I won't even put them in there because they're.
Well, I guess like the Van Halen 1 album should be in everybody's collection, even if you don't like. So they're basically the given. They are the staples of vocalists.
Yeah. How about your male vocalists?
This is going to be quick, but obviously, if you want to go back to start out with the classical voices, you talk about Andrea Bocelli, Pavarotti, and the tenors, right? Those are the you want to talk about.
That's classic.
Pure vocalists,
right?
If you want to talk about that, that's where you start. I'm not going to break it down genre or anything like that. I'm just going to give you my list, and then I'm going to tell you who I like. But Jeff Tate, Queensryche, obviously, and then his solo career. But just listen to the what.
His solo career was terrible.
But but
vocally, I know.
Vocally,
remember we always say vocalists, one who sings.
Exactly, and that's as simple as it gets. But the music may not be great. Now look, let's just say you go to a concert, you see James LaBrie, and he's off. You have the band to help him out.
Always.
Okay, you can get lost. Forget the vocals, but you can get lost in the music because Dream Theater. You could just stare at Mayung all night. Okay, you could stare at Petrucci all night. And you know what? They'll just help you if LaBrie's having a bad night. They'll help you escape. All right. So that's why when it comes down to the music may not have been as good as Queensryche, but Jeff Tate's voice is. I just love hearing.
It's iconic.
Exactly. So Jeff Tate, D.C. Cooper. But getting back to Jeff Tate, listen to "Walk in the Shadows," "I Dream in Infrared," right? "Sweet Sister Mary," "The Mission." Anybody listening was a great song. Della Brown. Just listen to the control and how his voice just turns around. The dynamic range is just unbelievable. And just listen to how his, it's almost like watching that light in a dark room that just goes from, it doesn't switch from red to orange to yellow to green. I don't even know the word I'm looking for.
But here's the thing: if you want to test Tate out, you listen to early Queensryche, first album.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen to his voice on that and the high notes he hit. Then you fast forward to an album called Promised Land and listen to a song on there called Someone Else. Listen to the difference and how he matured.
Yep.
But also, like you said, to his control. Listen to those. Just listen to that one. Any song from the first EP from 1983 probably, and then listen to the song Someone Else from Promised Land in the 90s. And you'll see how great of a vocalist he was. And I mean, he's not the same, and we'll talk about that in another episode with the lineup changes, but I agree with you about Tate.
Yeah, but, I guess like you said, in his prime and afterwards, look, you know what? He's had his time, and you know what? You have to recognize that.
Yep.
So that's Jeff Tate. D.C. Cooper, you mentioned it before, he was in Silent Force, but first he was in Royal Hunt. Then he had a solo album. And if you could check out this solo album, I don't know where you can get it. I have it, thank God. It's from 1999. But you have to listen to the whole album, front to back. They did a cover Uriah Heep song.
Easy Living, right?
Yeah, Easy Living, which was the second track on the song.
Skip it.
But you know what though? It's not even 3 minutes long. I think it's like
2.5.
Exactly. But it's really quick and it's powerful. It's really good power. It's really good prog metal. I mean, it's really I love that. I like the version. It was really good. Listen to The Angel Comes. Listen to Whisper, Until the End, Union, Forgive Me, Freedom. Okay, just
Until the end, man.
Wow. I mean, just listen to it. I mean, you could just and again, how his voice just merges into the next note, things like that. So if you can get that album from 1999, okay, his solo album, I think it's got his picture on the front cover. It's gold, DC Cooper in gold, and I think half of his face. If you can get that, get it, listen to it, and you'll enjoy it. Absolutely. Continuing, Steve Perry, who absolutely tremendous, top. David Coverdale, Michael McDonald. Again, anything he does is just, and I like the mature voice. I like young and old, Michael McDonald, but I always kind of lean towards the mature. It's a little bit deeper, and I like that. But I like the little raspiness in his voice.
Post Doobie Brothers.
You know what though? Even him and the Doobie Brothers is great. Freddie Mercury, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, who, again, you know what, for Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra and the great debate of who's better, and we're actually going to cover that too. Not tonight, though. People say, I like Elvis and I like Frank. You know,
that's who you like more. That's when it's going to come down to. But we'll touch on it.
We'll break that down. You want to get into crooners, obviously, Bing Crosby, Tony Bennett, Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, Sam Cooke, Josh Groban, and like we talked about before, it's got to be the right fit, right? You can't get Josh Groban and
he can't sing for Journey.
No, he can't sing for Journey, and he's also not going to sing Adam Raised the Cane by Bruce Springsteen.
No.
Okay, so because you have a great vocalist doesn't mean he's going to fit every band. It has to be the right fit.
Yep.
Okay? So Josh Groban is almost to me like a Charlotte Church on the female side. He's an angel. His voice of an angel is just a gift. All right? Louis Armstrong, not a vocalist, just got that unique style, character. He's like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, he's got that voice.
He had his own touch to it.
Right? He's like Stevie Nicks. You know who it is.
Yep.
All right? Robert Plant, Jay Black. I don't know if you know who Jay Black is. Jay Black and the Americans back. If you listen to CBS FM 101.1, Cousin Brucey, Harry Harrison. I grew up listening to that station. Jay Black and the Americans. Listen to Caramia. The opening notes he hits are just absolutely tremendous. And Bobby Darin. Over the years, those are who I liked. You know what? I even like Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, he was good.
Kenny Rogers was good.
Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. I forgot to mention him.
And you know what? Listen, we're breaking it down. Yes, we have a list. We have a foundation of the people, the vocalists. But you know what? I'm sure if I hear a song tomorrow, I'll be like, I didn't mention him or her.
Yep.
Okay, it's very, very hard. But you know what? These are the ones that stand out in my head, in your head as well. And that's who we can pretty much belt out anytime you ask us. These are the ones that we've listened to. If I had to break it down and give you my top three, I can't. So I'm going to just tell you that Jeff Tate, DC Cooper, Steve Perry, Michael McDonald, and Freddie Mercury. All right, and Josh Groban. But not including Elvis and Frank, who are already in the list.
That's already.
All right, again, that's almost like...
As I said, it's implied.
Exactly. That's the way... Oh, and Rob Halford. But to tell you the truth, getting back to Rob Halford and Jeff Tate, I don't even think it's close.
I agree with you.
It's not even close.
But it's also my preference because I've listened to early Priest, which I do enjoy a lot. One of my favorite Priest albums, Painkiller, which was a little bit later on. And I listened to early Queensryche. To me, I just think Tate had everything that Halford had and more. That's it.
Honestly, it's not even a moot point.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I am not taking anything away from Rob Halford.
Of course not.
Absolutely not. He is an icon, a vocal icon. But I don't know. Anybody I'll ask, I guarantee they're going to say Jeff Tate.
People will argue that if it wouldn't have been, if it wasn't for Halford, Tate wouldn't have, Queensryche wouldn't have existed. But to me, they're different bands. I could see with the comparison here and there, but. And I'm sure Tate had to have been a Halford fan because Priest has been around a lot longer than some people will think they were. You're talking about 73, 74, Priest started showing up. I'm
not taking anything away from that.
I know.
But if you just want, look.
This is not a show for this argument either, so we won't even go on.
Well, but you know what, though? You can compare, and I'm going to give you a little preview of my Elvis versus Sinatra comparison. Judas Priest and Queensryche are heavy metal, are metal,
Right.
rock.
Of course.
Frank and Elvis,
Different sides of the world.
different genres.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
You can compare Halford and Jeff Tate. You can
can.
definitely compare it. And Jeff Tate, to me, is just it's a no-brainer.
I agree.
But enough. Jeff is not paying me. I'm not going to go on about Jeff, but he is just unbelievable. I mean, I don't have to tell him. It's not like I know him and nobody else does. So we wrapped it up. Vocalist, female, male. You got our picks.
Our favs.
Yep, our favs. It's time for the artist of the podcast. You ready, Mike?
I'm always ready for artists of the podcast.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Yeah, ladies first.
I'm always shorter. You always have these long lists of your artists of the podcast history of life, so I'm just going to... Mine's nice and simple. Fates Warning. Their new record from June came out just June of 2016 called Theories of Flight. Fantastic. If you weren't a fan, I would listen to it. If you are a fan, you should already have it. It's not a comeback because Fates Warning never really went away. I think every album, I'm a bit of a Fates Warning fanboy. I just think it just concretes how great they are after all of these years. Check it out. It came out in June. It's definitely worth a listen. There's even an extra disc with some acoustic songs. Listening to Ray sing on acoustic songs is always a gift. Speaking of vocalists, the guy's just, he was in my list. It's definitely worth checking out. If you're a Fates Warning fan, I'm sure you already have it. If you do not, please check it out. Sample it up. Any of their records you should listen to.
All right, Mike, it's time for me to give my lengthy artist of the podcast.
Here we go again.
Chris Boss. He's a guitarist and a vocalist out of San Antonio, Texas. He plays for the self-titled Chris Boss Band. He performs over 200 shows annually. He's shared the stage with many big players, Steve Vai, Slash, Kiss, and many others. He's hired by many big companies to play all over the United States. SeaWorld, Budweiser, San Antonio Spurs, Shimatsu Medical Systems, and many Fortune 500 companies hire the Chris Boss Band to play for their events. He's played in Vegas. He's played at the Wynn, the Mandalay Bay. He did an instrumental version of the national anthem during the conference finals at the AT&T Center. He's even played many playoff games at the AT&T Center, as well as halftime shows. Chris has earned many accolades, winning Guitar Wars competition 3 times. He was nominated for Musician of the Year. He won Best Acoustic and Electric Guitarist, but he isn't just a cover band. He has 3 original albums that you could check out on iTunes. One was from 1999, self-titled Chris Boss. Another one from 2006, but when you look this up on iTunes, it's called One Hot Night, but the band name is The Fuss. So when you're looking it up, it won't be under the Chris Boss section. You may have to look a little bit down the line for it, but you'll see it as The Fuss. And then in 2015, he put out an album called Evolution. One of the tracks from Evolution will be our outro song of this podcast, and it's called Set Me Free, all right, from the album The Evolution. But stay tuned, because at the end of the year, he actually has a new full-length album out. All right, so it should be set for release probably towards the end of 2016, and it will be available on iTunes. Some of his original music has been featured on the TV show, The Cougar Town. I saw him twice, once in Minneapolis and once in Washington, and I had a chance to see him recently in Nashville, but unfortunately I couldn't make it. But not only is he a tremendous talent, he's a very humble and genuine human being. I spoke to him a few times, and he's a really great guy. He deserves all the good that he's receiving. He's a great talent. If he's playing in your local area, I would say go check him out. It was really cool to see him play. He plays a variety of music, and it's cool to see him go from one to another. So he'll go from Prince to Metallica, and he switches it up. But what's really cool is that he actually throws in a lot of little snippets of, like, I think he was playing a Metallica solo, and he threw in the Summer Song, a little segment of the Summer Song in the middle of the solo, and he keeps you on your toes. And if you listen, you'll hear some interesting stuff. You could also check him out at chrisboss.com and on YouTube, as well as iTunes. He's definitely worth giving a sample. Chris, good luck with everything that you do out there.
Good luck, Chris.
But everybody out there, stay tuned for the outro. Listen to Set Me Free. Go buy his album.
Press that new record on CD. Please, Chris.
Check him out. Now, for our trivia question answers. We had 4 of them. The first question was, Stevie Nicks sang backup vocals for what Jon Stewart song? and that was Gold. Gold is a great song. Go on iTunes, check it out. It's really good. It's an oldie, but you know what I like about females backing up male singers or the other way around? It adds another dimension. And even in like Eddie Money's song, Mike, I don't know if you've ever heard or Take Me Home Tonight. Not that
Of course,
of course,
it's a classic.
But Ronnie Spector sings "Be My Little Baby" periodically through the song, and you know what? That's all you need. I kind of think it's a really good dimension of just adding to the mix a female vocalist or vice versa.
Perfect placement.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Number 2. What is Frances Ethel Gumm's stage name? Judy Garland.
Who knew?
It was pretty interesting. That's why I always love looking up names and checking them out, because it's either they're close to the original name or they're just totally far off, and that's pretty much totally far off. Elle King is the daughter of what actor?
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider. She actually played in Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo as the little Girl Scout who came to the door.
What a cutesy.
She was 8. She was 8 years old at the time. Patti Smith co-wrote Because the Night with who? And it's Bruce Springsteen.
The boss.
So if you got those, if you didn't, don't worry about it. You don't win or lose anything. Just trying to keep you on your toes. All right, there you have it, Mike. It's time to wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up.
Don't forget, the subject is moot@yahoo.com. Write in comments, questions, anything you want to talk about. We'd love to hear your list of male and female vocalists. But stay tuned, because as soon as we are done here, the outro, remember, Set Me Free by Chris Boss off his Evolution album. I am Dom, and across from me is...
Mike, and we are out.